Fact, Republican strategists believe that if they get 20% of the black vote, they will establish GOP dominance in American politics for the foreseeable future. 20%. Gang, if the polls that have been coming out over the last year are any indicator, we may be seeing precisely that in the 2020 election. Stick with me and find out why. Greetings, everyone. Dr. Steve here. I hope you're all enjoying the official beginning of a post-globalist world as we bask in the sunlight of the Brexit break from the EU. For the first time since its inception, the EU has shrunk in size. And it's a beautiful thing to behold indeed. If you haven't already done so, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You are not going to want to miss a single video where we analyze current events in light of super awesome conservative trends so you can live in the present in light of even better things to come. Now, before we look at the astonishing poll numbers that have been coming out for President Trump among black voters, let's give a huge shout out to the sponsors of this video, and that's our good friends over at Noble Gold. You know them well. They've been with us for months. Now, seriously, have you been watching these gold prices going up recently? I mean, and have you wondered, too, how you can get in on that kind of action? Well, this may come as a bit of a surprise to you, but you can, but without even buying gold, because while gold has certainly skyrocketed up, hanging on its coattails and catching up fast is silver. Like a dog following its master, silver follows gold. In fact, sometimes it even overtakes it. Silver has its own advantages. It's far cheaper to buy, but it stands to make the same kind of profit. So, for example, between December and January, silver made over 14%. Now, imagine the tax relief on top if you bought silver for your IRA or 401k, and no one can help with that more than Noble Gold. Why don't you go ahead and give them a call at 877-646-5347 or go to noblegoldinvestments.com by clicking on the link below. You'll be glad you did. All right, so let's dive right in here. Rasmussen Reports has been tracking black support for President Trump now for the last 3 years, and periodically we've seen these surges of support that have defied expectations, certainly among left-wing liberals, since Trump is supposed to be the most racist president in the history of humanity. You know, he's the KKK incarnate in the White House and the Oval Office. So blacks are supposed to have an allergic reaction to him, and yet, as of just a few days ago, to the shock of Democrats everywhere, black support for Trump has now surged to 42%. This according to Scott Rasmussen's polling. Now, this percentage represents a doubling over the course of the last year in terms of support. And it's simply the latest and strongest surge that we've seen over the course of the last several months. So back in November, both Rasmussen and Emerson polling showed Trump with an astonishing 34% approval rating among black voters. Now, keep in mind, blacks traditionally vote upwards of around 90 to 95% for the Democratic presidential candidate. So 8% voted for Trump in 2016, which was impressive because it doubled John McCain's 4% in 2008 and bettered Romney's 6% back in 2012. The last president to get double-digit support from blacks, do you know who? It was Richard Nixon back in 1972. He got 16% of the black vote back then. So Trump did comparatively well among blacks in 2016. But if getting 8% is doing well, I mean, let's be blunt, you don't have very far to fall from that point. So this surge in support for Trump among blacks really is nothing short of astonishing, and Trump knows it. And that's why he's been reaching out to blacks perhaps more than any other Republican president in recent memory. And nothing showed that more than the Super Bowl commercial that Trump 2020 ran. Did you catch that? It was amazing. If you didn't see it, it's being called the Alice Johnson ad, okay? Alice Johnson is a black woman. She's a 63-year-old grandmother, and she was serving a life sentence for nonviolent drug offenses back in the 1990s. Well, as part of Trump's criminal justice reform bill, people like Alice are being set free to their families. And the commercial was absolutely beautiful because it depicted her being reunited with her family, and she crying, and she says, thank you, Donald John Trump, for this. It's just a beautiful and emotional ad. And it's just one of a number of factors that are contributing to Trump's surge in support among blacks. Another example is the unemployment numbers for black Americans. They are the lowest numbers that we've ever had since recording such unemployment figures. So you're seeing almost full employment among blacks. And that ties in as well with Trump's efforts at the border to stop illegal immigration. You may be unaware, but the political constituency that most wants borders closed are black Americans. And the reasons for that are obvious. Illegal immigration takes entry-level jobs away from citizens, and blacks are disproportionately more affected, more adversely affected by that than any other voting demographic. So we have polls that show that a substantial number of blacks actually want immigration to be stopped completely. Right? How's that for border security, right? Moreover, black entrepreneurship is up exponentially. According to the 2018 Small Business Trends Survey, which tracks the status of minority-owned businesses in the United States, black-owned small businesses grew by an astounding 400% in just 1 year alone between 2017 and 2018. In fact, after surveying more than 2,600 business owners, the study found that 45%, nearly half of all small businesses in the nation, were owned by minority ethnic groups in 2018. Now compare that to the 3 years ago, back in 2015, and you get an idea of how utterly astonishing that percentage is. Back in 2015, the percentage of businesses owned by minority ethnic groups was 15%. That percentage has grown by an astonishing 300% in just the last 3 years alone. But of course, the most dramatic constituent of this growth has been black business ownership, which now accounts for nearly 20% of all businesses in the United States, even though blacks are 14% of the population. So you have prison reform passed by Trump. You have record low unemployment among blacks, literally record ever recorded. You have border security being enforced. You have a massive surge in black entrepreneurship under Trump. And then on top of all that, you have at the pop level the rise of a number of very prominent black conservatives. So of course you have the Kanye West phenomenon. He's just extraordinary in this regard. He's this, multi-billionaire who's come out as fully pro-Trump, pro-conservative Christian. He's unapologetic in terms of his commitment to conservative values. You have Candace Owens, who's another highly prominent black conservative. And then, of course, you have the whole black Blexit movement that's calling on all blacks to abandon the sleazy, rotting Democratic Party and embrace a new future of vibrant and successful conservative values. And Candace Owens has been central to that. Now, I need not tell you that the Democrats are utterly panicked over this, okay, over the loss of confidence in the Democratic Party that's obviously increasing among blacks. And I have to say that I believe that this is precisely why Trump is constantly accused of being a racist by Democrats and the Marxist media. He's constantly being accused of racism precisely because the political left uses such vilifying tactics as a defense mechanism, as a way of scaring their constituents into staying loyal to them. You see, the Democrats know that if they were to lose 15 or 20% of blacks in terms of the vote, they would permanently be in the political minority. They would be a permanent minority party. If 15 to 20% of blacks defect over to the Republican Party, I mean, it's over. The Republicans would dominate politics for generations. So this is why the Democrats are trying so hard to scare and intimidate their constituents to remaining loyal and compliant. They love to accuse Trump of racism, since the very accusation itself is supposed to scare blacks away from Trump, even though they agree with a number of his policies that would never see the light of day under a Democrat administration. And here is the dirty little secret. Racism has actually gone down under Trump. We did a video on that some months back. Racism is actually down under Trump. This is what makes the Marxist media so pathetically pernicious. They're just a bunch of liars, and really, in the end, nothing more. A study from 2 sociologists at the University of Pennsylvania measured the racial attitudes of some 2,500 Americans randomly selected since 2008. And what they found surprised even the researchers. They actually found that racism has decreased under Trump. They found that, according to the sample, Americans were actually less inclined to express racist opinions since Donald Trump was elected president. So, for example, anti-black prejudice declined rather insignificantly during the period between 2012 and 2016. That was Obama's second term. But after 2016, anti-black prejudice took a significant sharp dive among both Republicans and Democrats. The researchers saw a comparable decline as well in anti-Hispanic prejudice. And these numbers corroborate with other studies that have found that blatant racism in general is on the decline in most Western nations. So when asked questions like, would you feel comfortable if one of your relatives married somebody from a different ethnic group? Or would you work for someone who's of a different ethnicity? Or would you be comfortable living next to a family of a different ethnicity, right? These are classic markers of potential racism, okay? And yet what we found is across much of the West, the number of people would feel uncomfortable with those things has completely plummeted. Back in 1958, more than 90% of Americans disapproved of interracial marriage. Today, it's the exact opposite. 90% approve. In Britain, more than half of the population opposed intergroup relations as recently as the 1980s. Today, fewer than 1 in 4 do. Study after study shows that racism and racist attitudes have actually been plummeting over the last several decades throughout the West, most especially here in the United States. And so this recurrent meme that's so often cited by the left, that Trump's a racist and that white supremacy is a growing problem in our nation, it's nothing short of a pernicious lie. So we'll obviously be keeping an eye on how things develop here with regard to Trump's popularity among blacks, and given the state of the Democratic Party and its current crop of candidates, if you can even call them that, I think we might be seeing his approval rating grow even higher in the days ahead. Now, before you go, I recently posted a video on how the ultra-liberal BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, is having to lay off over 400 of its employees in its news divisions because of its declining ratings, which is another indicator of how the mainstream Marxist media has lost its grip on information. It's going to absolutely make your day, so make sure to click on the link and I'll see you over there. God bless.